Hi, I'm Anand Subbaraj, Senior Program Manager in the Mass Data Services team, and I'm going to talk about Mass Data Services in SQL 2012. Mass Data Services in SQL 2012 provides capability for organizations to efficiently build the infrastructure while allowing the business to own the curation process. You'd see with our feature sets in SQL 2012, we are trying to simplify the mass data management game by providing ease of use and iterative approach of starting small and progressing to a bigger scale, thus significantly reducing the overall cost of implementation. Some of our TAP customers, who are the early adopters, were able to install the product, load the initial data set, and have meaningful prototypes in just less than 24 hours. The agenda for today, we are going to look at high-level introduction of Mass Data Services and its capabilities, and then deep dive into some of the new features in MDS SQL 2012. Today, businesses are heavily relying on data analysis in their day-to-day business decisions. One of the major challenges in this area is to ensure the data is always reliable and relevant. Currently, this task mainly falls on the organization's already overloaded IT, creating a bottleneck and impeding agility. The MDS goal in SQL 2012 is to simplify the task of raising the quality of the data by empowering the information worker and data experts to perform the tasks in their daily tool of choice, which is Microsoft Excel, thus allowing the IT team to take a role of supervisors and provide oversight. Let's take a look at the capabilities of Mass Data Services. Starting with the top left, modeling. This is the bread and butter of what we do. We allow users to create model by defining entities, which maps to table in SQL, create attributes, which maps to columns in SQL, and defining the relationships between objects, which we call hierarchies. Once the model is defined, it is important to maintain the sanity of the data and its accuracy. MDS allows users to validate the data in a model by using business rules. These are semantic business rules and not syntactic, and can be created as per the business requirements and run whenever needed. Another important aspect of mass data is to ensure data is clean and does not have any duplicates. MDS addresses this by integration with data matching of data quality services. It's a new feature in SQL 2012, and we are currently only addressing few specific scenarios. It will be extended in future versions to include the full range. MDS also allows you to maintain multiple versions of the mass data in a model. This is very important in financial scenarios where at the end of the year, one version of the data can be locked for auditing, while another version of the same mass data can be made open for consumption by users without impacting the business. MDS also has a very extensive security model. It allows you to restrict the permissions for a user to a cell in the table. We provide both row and column level security, which provides more flexibility than the entity level security that some of our competitors provide. We also have another interesting feature called transaction annotations, which allows users to add comments whenever any changes are done. This can be very useful for tracking history of changes and useful in auditing purposes. We have two sets of interfaces for integrating with external systems. At the SQL level, we provide staging tables for loading data in MDS and subscription views for consumption of the data from MDS. Another set of interface that we have are the WCF APIs, which can be used for implementing custom interfaces. Out of box, MDS provides two user interfaces: the web user interface, which existed in 2008 R2 but improved significantly in this release, and the new Excel add-in, which is introduced in SQL 2012. As I mentioned earlier, Excel add-in is introduced in Mass Data Services SQL 2012. We are very excited about this feature and believe this is going to change the mass data management game. And the customer feedback from the early adopters is very promising. Excel add-in allows information workers and business users to participate in and own the process of curating the data. It provides simplified user experience for defining the models in a rapid manner, thus simplifying the work of IT in setting up the system, and allows faster and easier interaction with the business users. With the MDS Excel add-in, the MDM implementation has transformed from waterfall approach to a more agile concept where business users are involved in a much earlier stage and provides feedback which improves the overall quality of the data significantly. And this is a game changer considering the traditional complex MDM approach. Now let's take a look at the demo of the new Excel add-in. This is the Mass Data Services Excel add-in. You'd see the Mass Data tab in the Excel ribbon once you have the Excel add-in installed. It is available for both Office 2007 and 2010 and comes in x86 and AMD 64-bit flavor. From the Excel add-in, you can connect to any MDS server by using HTTP connection. I'll now connect to my local host which has MDS installed. Once the server is connected, you can see the list of the models and the corresponding entities. Consider an example where I manage this customer list locally on my laptop and I'd like to manage this list in Mass Data Services. Now I'm going to select the data and click on the Create Entity button. I'll pick one of the existing models on the server called Demo and call the new entity as Customer List. I'll assign the code attribute, which is mandatory, and then assign the name attribute, which is an optional attribute. I also have the option to generate the code automatically, which I'm not going to do here. And then press the OK button. Behind the scenes, MDS is running stored procedures for creating the entity, all the attributes, and loading the data in the system. It also validates the data against any business rules that are associated with the entity. You can see the entity is created and the customer data that I was managing locally is now managed in MDS server, and Excel only acts as a glorified interface for me to manage the data. I can leverage the full power of Excel along with the MDS capabilities to manage and curate the data. The attributes of this entity are created based on the analysis of the data, and most of these are either text or numbers. For example, if I select house number and look at the attribute property, I see that it is of attribute type number and have 0 decimal places. These are automatically assigned by MDS and can be modified by users. I would now like to create the state code as a picker list to ensure there are no typing errors while editing this attribute. I select state code and click on attribute properties. I select the attribute type as constraint list and populate the values from a new entity which I'm going to call state. I also have the option to populate the values from an existing entity, which is not possible here since the state entity does not already exist. Now I press the OK button. Now MDS creates a new entity called state with the unique values from the state code attribute and establishes the foreign key relationship between these two tables. I can see that state code now has a picker list and can choose from the existing values. So within the last few minutes, I was able to manage my local list on MDS by creating a new entity and was able to create relationship with another entity, all using the Excel interface and not writing any code. This is a testament of the power and the value that Mass Data Services Excel add-in brings in SQL 2012. Now in the entity, I see the street type attribute is blank for this member. I'll go ahead and update it, and you can see MDS identifies that it is a new value and marks it with a different color, which indicates it is not yet published to the server. Now that I have updated the member, I'll publish the change by clicking on the Publish button. MDS allows users to add a comment or annotation associated with the change. I have the option to add a single comment for all my changes, or in case of multiple changes, I can add individual comments for each change. I'll add a comment, call it demo, and publish the changes. I can now right click on the member and click on View Transactions to look at the history of all the changes that were performed on this member. It is logged with the username, date time, and the annotation, which can be used for auditing purposes and governance of the data changes. MDS Excel add-in also allows you to load only the data from the entity that you are interested in while opening a new entity. This is very efficient in cases where there are a large number of records on an entity and you want to manage only a small subset. This significantly improves performance and scalability by reducing the amount of data brought from the server. For this purpose, you can use the filter button. In this case, I'm not interested in house number, street name, and street type attributes, so I uncheck them. And I want to look only at the customers that are from the Washington state. So I add a filter on state code and set it equal to Washington. I click on Update Summary, and it quickly provides me the number of records that meets the criteria. Now I click the Load Data button, and it loads only the customers that are from the Washington state and excludes all the attributes that I removed from the selection. Now I can curate this data. MDS also provides the capability to save the query of your connection along with the filter criteria to promote easy sharing and collaboration. I can do this by clicking on the Save Query button. Once the query is saved, I can easily share it with others by clicking on the Send Query button. It opens a new email with the saved query as an attachment. This query file is similar to a link and does not contain any data. It can also be hosted on SharePoint, and anybody who has the MDS Excel add-in installed and permissions to view the data can open it to connect to your server using the same filter criteria and obtain the latest data. This concludes the demo of Mass Data Services Excel add-in in SQL 2012.
Moving on, we have a redesigned and higher performance web user interface in SQL 2012. One of the major customer complaints in SQL 2008 R2 was regarding the usability and performance of the web user interface. We have mainly focused on these two areas and improved them significantly in this release. The Explorer, Hierarchy Management, and Integration Management sections of the web user interface is updated with Silverlight look and feel for better usability, consistent navigation, and improved performance. The commonly used features like add remove members, moving members in the hierarchy, and filter is made much intuitive and snappier. Apart from the usability and performance enhancements, we have also added new features like waiting in collections and many-to-many relationships explorer as per the top customer requests. Let's take a look at the demo of the web user interface.
I'm on the Mass Data Services web user interface homepage. It has got 6 functional areas grouped as information worker tasks and the administrative tasks based on the personas who will be using the interface. Also, we have added an advertisement for Excel add-in to ensure users can get to it easily. Excel add-in is not going to be available in the box and will be hosted on Download Center. This URL points to Download Center but can be configured to a different location by the administrator. The administrator can also configure whether or not to display the Excel add-in advertisement on this homepage. Now I'm going to use one of my existing models called Customer and navigate to the Explorer area. As you can see, I'm taken directly to the customer entity, which is a base entity in this case. If there are no base entities defined, the first entity in the model will appear here. The Explorer screen is divided into two sections, the read-only grid on the left and the edit window on the right. We can easily navigate through different members and make the edits on the right pane. Whenever an edit is done, users can add comments or annotations associated with the changes. If there were any business rules validation error, users can see that here. There are also some client-side validations to ensure the data entered is correct. For example, if I make the code attribute empty, which is a mandatory attribute, it immediately detects that and lets me know that this value cannot be blank. Now I'll select one of the members, make some edits, add an annotation, call it demo, and save the changes. Now that I have edited this member, I can click on the View Transactions and view the history of the changes that were performed on this member. All the changes made to this member are logged with the username, the date time, and the annotation, which is very useful in auditing purposes. I can also create a new member by clicking on the Add Member button. Coming to the grid, the leftmost column is the validation status. It shows the members that have validation success, failures, and the members that are waiting to be validated. Apply Rules button applies the business rules. It can be used to apply the rules to the grid or to the entire entity. When you want to apply the business rules to the entire entity, it could take some time depending on the size of the entity. We provide you this informational message, and this is an asynchronous process which allows you to perform other operations while the validation is happening in the background. You can click the check status to view the status of the validation of the entity at any point in time. Now let's take a look at the filter interface. I can add a filter easily and retrieve the relevant members. We also support complex filter criteria such as is like, starts with, and matching algorithms, which are performance intensive operations, but when you use them, you'll notice how quickly it gets the data. In addition, we also provide the capability to filter based on validation status. Now I'll navigate to the hierarchy area. I select one of the explicit hierarchy in the customer model called area for this demo. As you can see, we have a consistent navigation with the read-only grid and the edit pane as an explorer. We have added an additional pane for displaying the hierarchy tree. On selecting a node in the tree, the corresponding leaf members get displayed on the grid and they can be edited on the right pane. One of the most interesting operations in hierarchy is to move members from one node to another. We can perform this operation with just few clicks. For example, I can move New York from northeast to southeast by just dragging and dropping. Similarly, I can move New York back to northeast by dragging and dropping it here. I can also do this operation by using cut and paste buttons. We can also search for any hierarchy items by entering their name in the search text box. Once the item is found, I can select the item and look for the parent by clicking on the Find Parent button. All these hierarchy related operations are very complex and hard to perform using some of the other interfaces. But as you saw, Master Data Services Web User Interface significantly simplifies this operation, and information workers can perform these within few minutes. This completes the short demo of the new improved Web User Interface in Master Data Services SQL 2012.
As I mentioned earlier, one of the most important aspects of master data is to ensure the data is clean and does not have any duplicates. Master Data Services addresses this requirement by integration with data quality services in SQL 2012.
Data Quality Services, or DQS, is a new feature in SQL 2012. DQS provides data matching algorithms which can be accessed from within the Mass Data Services Excel add-in for identifying duplicates before publishing the data to the MDS servers. It also allows users to create groupings for similar records by utilizing the clustering feature that MDS DQS integration provides. You can leverage existing DQS knowledge base that is pre-installed as part of the installation for creating the matching rules for deduplication of records. Also, you can create new knowledge base and adapt that from within the Mass Data Services Excel add-in. Now let's take a look at the entity-based staging feature in Mass Data Services SQL 2012. We were talking earlier about loading data into MDS using Excel, but Excel could pose some memory-related performance challenges while loading millions of records. We address this issue by providing staging tables for loading millions of records into Mass Data Services. In SQL 2008 R2, we had staging tables, but it was name-value pairs and had some performance issues. In 2012, we are introducing entity-based staging tables, as you can see in the picture below, where there is a corresponding staging table for each entity. Whenever an entity is created, a staging table is created for that entity. There are three main benefits in this approach. Number one, it is more intuitive. It is just like a table and can be used as a front porch for entering the data into Mass Data Services. Number two, since we have staging tables for each entity, it provides a better securability at the entity level. And number three, it has significant performance improvements than previous releases. Additionally, it also allows better integration with SQL Server integration services. This concludes the demo of Mass Data Services in SQL 2012. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. You can visit the Mass Data Services books online and SQL Resource Center for more in-depth contents and videos of MDS features. You can also learn more by visiting Microsoft Virtual Academy, which provides free SQL Server training courses. We encourage you to download the SQL Server 2012 evaluation copy and try the new features. Also, please participate in the virtual launch activities and collect prizes. Thank you.